What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video here at Chris's MMA Universe. And for this video, I want to talk a little bit about a UFC fight night, which happens December 21st, Saturday, which is Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. Now, this fight is actually pretty exciting for a couple of reasons. And I would say the big reason on why it's very exciting is because it's going to give Brian Ortega a little bit of a chance to redeem himself, right? I mean, from that spectacular win that Max Holloway had over him back when they fought not too long ago. And, I mean, the fight before that, Brian Ortega had a spectacular knockout win against Frankie Edgar. And, I mean, hats off to Frankie Edgar, but, I mean, Brian Ortega, I think, literally lifted him off of his feet with Frankie Edgar's actually very first finish in the UFC. I mean, that was the first time Frankie Edgar got finished. And, I mean, he looked spectacular in that fight. The thing about Brian Ortega, though, is that he fights kind of at his own pace, right? Like, even if the fight is kind of going at a high pace with the opponent, Brian Ortega still fights at his own pace. Like, he will fight slow, at his own speed, and, to just try to, be accurate with it. And I mean, for those of you that don't know, and I don't think I really need to mention this, but I think it goes without saying that Brian Ortega is a spectacular Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. I mean, this guy is an animal in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's like he wraps you up like an alligator. And there's really no getting out of it. I mean, this guy, if not the best, is one of the best on the UFC's entire roster. So, if this fight goes to the ground with Korean Zombie, where Korean Zombie is actually good in all areas, there's really nowhere where you'll see Korean Zombie not knowing what he's doing, And Korean Zombie actually fights at a pretty high pace himself. So I'm not sure if Brian Ortega is going to go in here with a little bit of a different game plan because of, the way Korean Zombie fights, or the way he's at a very high pace. I mean, his striking is phenomenal. His ground game, he's no slouch. I mean, there's really nothing that Korean Zombie can't do. But if this fight does go to the ground, I know the Korean Zombie isn't a slouch down there, but I think Brian Ortega has the edge on the ground. I mean, I think Brian Ortega has the edge on the ground with just about anybody in that division. And, we would love to see, I know I would love to see if that fight did go to the ground. I'm curious if Korean Zombie can, hold his own on the ground against Brian Ortega. Now, I just really, really, really want to see this fight because I really want to see Brian Ortega, give his little chance of redemption, like I said, to redeem himself. But at the same time, I really want to see Korean Zombie go in there and get it done as well. I'm just excited to see which way would this fight go. And I'm leaning more towards Brian Ortega. I do believe Brian Ortega is going to go in here and pull the W in this fight. And I believe it's actually going to be on the feet. I don't think Korean Zombie is going to want to go to the ground with him. Now, I'm not saying Korean Zombie can't handle his own. So please do not take me wrong when I say that. I just don't think Korean Zombie will be able to hold his own against Ortega on the ground. I just don't see that happening. Now, Brian Ortega has, submissions to where he can stand up and finish you if he needs to. It's just, if you let him get a hold of you, it's going to be very hard to get out of it, if you will be able to get out of it at all. So I know Korean Zombie is going to go in there knowing that. So I don't see Korean Zombie being afraid to stand and trade with Ortega. I mean, it's just that who out there thought for a second that he was actually going to be able to knock out Frankie Edgar? I couldn't even guess in my wildest dreams that he was going to do that to Frankie Edgar. I mean, Frankie Edgar, out of all people, who was never finished going into that fight. And, people in the past say that they would finish Frankie Edgar, that they were going to go in there and finish Frankie Edgar. A lot of people believed it, and then it just never happened, as if Frankie Edgar just didn't have an off switch. And then Ortega fighting at the pace that he did. I mean, everybody thought if Ortega was going to win that fight, it was going to have to be by submission. And he knocked him clean out. I mean, it was a brutal knockout. I'm so happy that that didn't end Frankie Edgar's career, and Frankie Edgar was actually able to come back and kind of like a fast turnaround too. Ended up fighting Cub Swanson, ended up getting to the decision win, I believe, in that fight. But I think Ortega's going to win. I think Ortega will be able to pull the W on Korean Zombie. I do believe that it's going to be in the striking aspect of the fight. I believe that Ortega's actually going to be able to go in there and possibly even outclass him. You know, I do believe that Korean Zombie will go in there for sure. Game opponent against Brian Ortega. I mean, game opponent just against just about anybody in that division. But Brian Ortega does need to go in there. He does need to prove himself. He needs to prove himself to the fans, prove himself just to himself. You know, like he just needs to go in here, get a win, feel better, get back in the winner's circle, and just learn from the last fight. You know, just try to go in here with a little bit of a different pace. I mean, he's been off for a very long time. You know, he has a little bit of a layoff. I mean, not too long, but, you know, he fought that last fight with Max Holloway. Of course, it was pretty brutal. And, I mean, you can see the pictures that I put up in this video that, you know, the way he looked after that fight, during that fight where it was, just, you know, it was just pretty much done. And, you know, just Brian Ortega just needs to go in there and end up just showing himself, you know, display himself. He only has one loss in the UFC. And what I don't like is that, I mean, this is his first loss in his entire career. What I don't like is that when someone has one loss on their record, I mean, yeah, it could be a brutal loss, and then out of nowhere, they just say that that fighter's done. He's going to retire now. It's just, it amazes me that people say that. It's one loss. I do believe that it was a brutal loss. I believe that he took some pretty bad bumps and bruises in that fight. But come on now. It was one fight, one loss. I know a lot of people were like, oh, you know, they don't know if he's going to come back, you know, the same. Listen, he might come back better. He's still young. He's still in his 20s. He's a young fighter. He can still get better. That's why I do believe that Brian Ortega is going to go in there and actually fight his heart out. I believe he's going to go in there better than ever. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the Korean Zombie. I know the Korean Zombie could definitely go in there and get it done. But I do believe that Ortega will get it done. I believe that it's going to be a 5-round war. I do see that happening. But my official prediction for this fight is going to be Brian Ortega by a 4th round TKO. Yeah, I'm gonna go a little brave on it. I'm just gonna guess and, you know, give my educated guess and actually just give my official prediction with the 4th round TKO for Brian Ortega against the Korean Zombie. But I will not be surprised if it is a 5-round war. I'm just gonna officially predict that Ortega will win this fight by a 4th round TKO, but I do believe that it will go towards Ortega in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's a 4th round TKO, whether it's a 5-round war, it doesn't really matter. I see it going towards Ortega, and if it doesn't happen in the 4th round TKO, I see it being a 5-round spectacular fight with Ortega actually getting the decision win. And but officially, I would say 4th round TKO. If not, then it will be a decision win going towards Ortega. Hopefully, Ortega goes in there with a better game plan and, you know, fights at a little bit of a better pace, like I said. But, I mean, you know, he had a little bit of a layoff, like I said. And after fighting Max Holloway, where Max Holloway fought actually 2 times since their last fight. And I know Ortega had to take a little bit of some time off with the damage he took in that fight against Max Holloway, and just to heal up and, you know, go back to the drawing board and come back even better than ever. And like I said, not taking anything away from the Korean Zombie, but I believe Ortega will pull the W. I really, really, really want to know what you guys think of this fight. What do you guys think is going to happen in this fight? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you smash the like button and make sure you subscribe, because like I said in my last video, I'm trying to get up to 100 subscribers, and as soon as I get 100 subscribers, I'm going to show my face. I'm going to do some vlogs, you know, where I can actually talk into the camera with you guys and, you know, see what happens there. I mean, also look into the future where I might be doing some reaction videos to UFCs and, you know, maybe possibly on the UFC actual fight nights or maybe just, you know, a few days afterwards. Just, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. I want to see 100 subscribers very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see all you guys in the next one.